Commander Zexkar adjusted his silver uniform as he stood before the massive holographic display in the Galactic Council's war room. The blue-skinned Valerian's 4 eyes tracked the countless red dots representing human settlements across the galaxy. Each dot made his stomach twist with growing unease. The humans have expanded to over 3,000 systems in just 200 years, reported Captain THYSS, her serpentine head swaying as she spoke. The Drakmari Empire took 15 centuries to reach half that number. The war room fell silent. Representatives from 12 major galactic civilizations stared at the display, their various forms of breathing creating an odd symphony of concern. Admiral Korth, the massive insectoid leader of the Hive Collective, clicked his mandibles nervously. How is this possible? Korth's translator converted his chittering into standard galactic. Our intelligence reports show humans have no advanced technology. Their ships barely achieve faster-than-light travel. Their weapons are primitive chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Zexkar had wondered the same thing for months. The Galactic Council had been tracking human expansion since first contact 50 years ago. Back then, humans seemed like just another primitive species taking their first steps into space. Most civilizations took millennia to master interstellar travel. Humans had done it in mere decades after discovering they weren't alone. Perhaps they reproduce faster than other species, suggested Ambassador Yilla, her crystalline form shifting colors as she spoke. Rapid population growth could explain the expansion. Negative, THYSS replied, her forked tongue tasting the air. Human reproduction rates are average. A single offspring every few years, with a lifespan of barely 100 rotations. Nothing remarkable there. Zexkar pulled up detailed reports on human colonies. The data made no sense. Humans were establishing successful settlements in environments that would kill most galactic species. Ice worlds where Valerians would freeze solid. Desert planets where Drakmari would dehydrate in hours. Gas giant moons with crushing gravity that would flatten crystalline beings. Look at this colony report from Kepler 442b, Zexkar said, highlighting a specific settlement. The planet has gravity 3 times standard, toxic atmosphere, and surface temperatures that swing from -50 to +60 degrees daily. Yet humans have been there for 20 years with a population of 2 million. The room erupted in startled sounds. Various species expressed disbelief through chittering, hissing, color changes, and electromagnetic pulses. Admiral Korth's mandibles clicked rapidly. Impossible. No species can adapt to such extremes. They must be using environmental suits constantly. That's what we thought too, Zexkar continued. But our scouts report humans working outdoors with minimal protection. They've somehow modified their colony to make the planet habitable. Ambassador Yilla's crystalline structure flickered red. Modified how? Terraforming takes thousands of years and enormous resources. Zexkar brought up surveillance footage from human colonies. The images showed humans working in conditions that would be lethal to most galactic species. On one ice world, humans were constructing buildings while exposed to temperatures that would freeze Valerian blood in minutes. On a desert world, they operated massive mining equipment under a sun that would blind crystalline beings permanently. We don't understand their methods, Zexkar admitted. Human technology appears primitive, yet they achieve results that surpass our most advanced civilizations. They build cities in months where we would need decades. They extract resources from planets we've deemed worthless. Captain THYSS slithered closer to the display. There's something else. Human military capabilities. The room tensed. Military discussion always made the Galactic Council nervous. Most species had achieved peace through careful balance of power and mutual assured destruction. The thought of a new military force disrupting that balance terrified everyone. Explain, Admiral Korth demanded. THYSS pulled up combat reports from the Outer Rim. 6 months ago, the Skarn raiders attacked a human cargo convoy near the Centauri system. The Skarn expected easy prey. Humans had only been in space for decades, while Skarn have been raiding for millennia. The Skarn were notorious throughout the galaxy. Their ships were fast, heavily armed, and crewed by warriors bred for combat. They had terrorized trade routes for centuries, and even major powers avoided direct confrontation with Skarn fleets. What happened? Zexkar asked, though he suspected he wouldn't like the answer. The human convoy consisted of 12 cargo ships, and, for escort vessels, THYSS continued. Skarn sent 30 raiders, expecting overwhelming victory. The battle lasted 18 minutes. All 30 Skarn ships were destroyed. The humans lost nothing. Shocked silence filled the war room. Ambassador Yila's form cycled through colors so rapidly she became a blur. Admiral Korth's chittering rose to frequencies that hurt Valerian ears. 30 Skarn ships. Korth's translator struggled with his agitated clicking. Against 4 human escorts? This data must be corrupted. We confirmed it through multiple sources, THYSS replied. Skarn survivors were captured and interrogated. They described human tactics unlike anything in our military databases. The human ships moved with precision that seemed impossible. Their weapons struck targets at ranges we thought unreachable. Zexkar studied the tactical analysis. The battle data made no sense according to established military doctrine. Human ships had somehow coordinated attacks across vast distances without detectable communication. They had predicted Skarn movements with impossible accuracy. Most disturbing, they had shown mercy by accepting surrender when they could have eliminated every enemy vessel. The Skarn survivors spoke of something else, THYSS added. They claimed human ships communicated without standard transmissions, as if the crews were somehow connected telepathically. Humans aren't telepathic, Ambassador Yila stated. Our biological scans confirm they're purely physical beings. No psychic capabilities detected. Then, how do you explain their coordination? THYSS challenged. Skarn warriors described human ships moving like parts of a single organism. They anticipated each other's actions perfectly. No species achieves that level of coordination without shared consciousness. Zexkar had read similar reports from other encounters. Human trading expeditions negotiating deals that seemed too good to be true. Human exploration teams discovering valuable resources in places other species had searched for centuries. Human diplomatic missions resolving conflicts that had raged for millennia. There's a pattern emerging, Zexkar said. Humans consistently exceed expectations in every field. Exploration, construction, combat, diplomacy, resource extraction. They achieve impossible results using apparently primitive methods. Admiral Korth's mandibles stopped clicking. The sudden silence from the massive insectoid was more unsettling than his agitated chittering. What are you suggesting, Commander? Korth asked. I'm suggesting we don't understand humans at all, Zexkar replied. We've been measuring them by our standards, using our definitions of technology and capability. But what if humans operate by completely different principles? The concept troubled everyone present. Galactic civilization was built on shared understanding of physical laws, technological development, and social evolution. Every species followed similar patterns of growth and advancement. The idea that humans might represent something entirely different challenged everything they believed. We need more information, Ambassador Yila declared. Direct observation of human activities in multiple sectors. Agreed, Admiral Korth chittered. But we must be careful. If humans are truly as capable as these reports suggest, we don't want to be seen as threats. Zexkar nodded, but privately wondered if it was already too late for caution. Human expansion continued accelerating. Human capabilities seemed to grow stronger every year. Most concerning, human attention was turning toward the galactic core, where the major civilizations maintained their primary territories. What about the warnings? Captain THYSS asked suddenly. What warnings? Zexkar replied. Ancient records in the Drakmari archives mention species that came before current galactic civilization. The records are incomplete, but they reference warnings about challenging certain types of beings. Warnings that some species are too dangerous to confront directly. The room fell silent again. Ancient records were notoriously unreliable, filled with myths and legends rather than historical facts. But recent events made everyone more willing to consider possibilities they would have dismissed before. Do these records describe the dangerous species? Ambassador Yila asked. Partially, THYSS replied. The descriptions are vague, but they mention beings who achieved greatness through struggle rather than advancement. Species that grew stronger when opposed rather than weaker. The records warn against challenging such beings because victory would be impossible and defeat would be absolute. Zexkar felt his four hearts beat faster. The description sounded uncomfortably similar to what they were observing from humans. Other species achieved success through technological superiority or evolutionary advantages. Humans seem to achieve success through pure determination and adaptability. We should contact human leadership directly, Admiral Korth suggested. Open diplomatic channels and learn their intentions. Human leadership is difficult to identify, Zexkar admitted. They don't have a central government like most species. Instead, they operate through dozens of independent nations and organizations. Sometimes these groups cooperate, sometimes they compete, sometimes they conflict with each other. This fact had confused galactic observers since first contact. Most species achieved unity before achieving interstellar travel. The energy required for space exploration typically forced civilizations to overcome internal divisions and work together. Humans had somehow reached the stars while maintaining their fractured political structure. How do they coordinate expansion efforts without central authority? Ambassador Yilla wondered. They don't coordinate, THYSS replied. Human expansion appears chaotic and unplanned. Different groups establish colonies wherever they choose, using whatever methods they prefer. Yet somehow this chaos produces better results than our most carefully planned settlement programs. The paradox frustrated everyone present. Galactic civilization valued order, planning, and cooperation. The idea that random chaos could outperform careful organization violated everything they understood about successful societies. Perhaps that's their advantage, Zexkar mused. While we spend years planning optimal solutions, humans simply try multiple approaches simultaneously. Some fail, but some succeed beyond our wildest expectations. Admiral Korth's chittering took on a worried tone. If humans are truly unpredictable, how do we establish diplomatic relations? Traditional protocols require understanding the other party's motivations and decision-making processes. We try anyway, Zexkar decided. The alternative is letting human expansion continue unchecked until they become too powerful to contain. The word contain hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Everyone present understood the implications. If humans proved hostile, the Galactic Council might need to take military action to protect existing civilizations. But recent reports suggested human military capabilities far exceeded initial estimates. What if we're thinking about this wrong? Ambassador Yilla suggested. What if humans aren't a threat, but an opportunity? Their capabilities could benefit the entire galaxy if we establish proper cooperation. Or they could eliminate us all if we mishandle first contact, Captain THYSS countered. Species with their apparent capabilities don't need to cooperate with anyone. They can simply take whatever they want. Zexkar studied the galactic map again. Human settlements formed no recognizable pattern, yet they were slowly surrounding the territories of major civilizations. Whether through intention or coincidence, humans were positioning themselves to control key trade routes and resource systems. We need contingency plans, he decided. Diplomatic outreach as our primary strategy, but military preparations in case negotiations fail. Admiral Korth's mandibles clicked approval. The Hive Collective can mobilize 50,000 ships within one rotation. Combined with forces from other council members, we could field the largest fleet in galactic history. Against a species that destroyed 30 Skarn raiders without taking damage, THYSS reminded them. Are we certain overwhelming numbers would guarantee victory? The question silenced the room again. Military planning required reliable intelligence about enemy capabilities. Human capabilities remained largely mysterious despite decades of observation. They had technological surprises that defied explanation and tactical innovations that challenged conventional warfare. We proceed carefully, Zexkar concluded. Full diplomatic effort with discreet military preparation. We approach humans as potential partners while ensuring we can defend ourselves if necessary. The council members agreed, though Zexkar could sense their underlying fear. Everyone present realized they were dealing with something unprecedented in galactic history. Humans represented either the greatest opportunity or the greatest threat their civilizations had ever encountered. As representatives dispersed to contact their home governments, Zexkar remained alone with the galactic display. Human settlements glowed like red stars across the map, each one representing successful adaptation to environments that challenged the best of galactic science and engineering. He pulled up detailed files on human history that had been gathered through careful observation. The records showed a species that had survived ice ages, global wars, natural disasters, and countless other challenges that would have eliminated most civilizations. Humans had not only survived, but grown stronger from each crisis. The ancient warnings Captain HFY had mentioned echoed in his mind. Beings who grew stronger when opposed rather than weaker. Species too dangerous to challenge directly. He wondered if the Galactic Council was already making the mistake those ancient records warned against. His communication device chimed with an incoming priority message. The sender identification made his 4 hearts skip beats. The message originated from Sol System, humanity's home star. It was addressed to the Galactic Council and marked as an official diplomatic communication. Zexkar opened the message with trembling hands. The content was brief and written in perfect galactic standard language. Greetings to the Galactic Council. We are aware of your surveillance activities in human territory. We appreciate your interest in our expansion efforts and would welcome opportunities for mutual cooperation. We propose a diplomatic summit to discuss areas of common interest. We can meet at any location and time convenient for your representatives. We look forward to establishing positive relations with our galactic neighbors. The message was signed by the United Human Diplomatic Corps, with coordinates for reply communications. Zexkar read it 3 times, searching for hidden meanings or subtle threats. The tone was friendly and professional, exactly what diplomats hope to see in first contact scenarios. But the implications were terrifying. Humans had not only detected Galactic Council surveillance, but had been monitoring Council communications enough to learn galactic standard language and diplomatic protocols. They had been watching the Watchers while appearing completely unaware of outside attention. Zexkar immediately sent emergency alerts to all Council representatives. The diplomatic game had just become infinitely more complex. Humans weren't naive primitives stumbling through space. They were sophisticated players who had been observing galactic civilization with the same intensity that galactic civilization had been observing them. The real question was what humans had learned during their covert observation period. Did they know about the military preparations being discussed? Did they understand the fear their expansion was causing? Most importantly, what were their true intentions for the galaxy? As Zexkar prepared response protocols for the most important diplomatic contact in galactic history, he couldn't shake the feeling that humans had been planning this moment far longer than anyone realized. The timing of their communication, arriving immediately after the Council's strategy session, suggested surveillance capabilities that surpassed even their most paranoid estimates. He looked at the galactic map one final time before beginning diplomatic preparations. Human settlements continued expanding even as their message offered cooperation and peace. Whatever humans truly wanted from the galaxy, they were positioning themselves to take it whether the Galactic Council agreed to cooperate or not. The ancient warnings were starting to make terrifying sense. Don't challenge humans, because the truth was already too late. The challenge had been accepted the moment galactic civilization decided to watch humanity's expansion instead of welcoming them as equals from the beginning. Now they would discover whether humans remembered being watched, and whether they considered surveillance a hostile act deserving response. The diplomatic summit was scheduled to take place on Nexus Station, a neutral facility orbiting the dead star at the galaxy's center. Commander Zexkar arrived 3 days early with a full security detail and the most experienced diplomats from 12 major civilizations. Everyone wanted to understand humanity before making decisions that could affect the entire galaxy. Ambassador Sarah Chun stepped off the human transport ship with only 2 companions. She was smaller than most galactic representatives, standing barely 6 feet tall with dark hair and alert brown eyes. Her simple blue uniform contained no visible weapons or technology. She looked exactly like the primitive species reports had described. "Welcome to Nexus Station," Zexkar said in carefully practiced human English. He had spent weeks learning the language, though he struggled with the complex emotional undertones human speech contained. "Thank you, Commander," Shin replied in perfect galactic standard. "I appreciate you accommodating our request for neutral ground. May I introduce Dr. James Park, our science advisor?" and Colonel Maria Santos, our security liaison. Zexkar studied the human delegation carefully. Dr. Park appeared to be in his 50s, with gray hair and kind eyes behind simple optical correction devices. Colonel Santos was obviously military, with short black hair and a bearing that suggested extensive combat experience. Neither seemed particularly threatening, yet something about their calm confidence made Zexkar uneasy. "Your delegation is quite small," Admiral Korth observed, his translator converting anxious chittering. "Are additional representatives joining us? The three of us have full authority to negotiate on behalf of all human governments and organizations," Chen explained. "We prefer small, efficient diplomatic teams." This statement confused everyone present. How could 3 individuals represent dozens of independent nations and countless private organizations? Most galactic species required massive bureaucracies to coordinate diplomatic positions among multiple factions. "Perhaps we should begin with a tour of the station," Zexkar suggested. "You can meet representatives from all council member civilizations before we start formal negotiations." As they walked through Nexus Station's corridors, Zexkar noticed something strange about the human delegation. They moved through the artificial gravity fields without apparent discomfort, despite the gravity being calibrated for species much larger than humans. They showed no reaction to the atmospheric mixture, which contained gases toxic to most biological life forms. Most unsettling, they seemed to anticipate corridor layouts and turnings despite never having visited the station before. "The architecture is interesting," Dr. Park commented as they passed through the crystalline sector. "The resonance frequencies in these walls would create beautiful harmonic patterns." Ambassador Yila's form flickered in surprise. "How did you know about the resonance properties?" "Those are internal structural elements not visible to organic senses." "Dr. Park has excellent hearing," Chen replied with a slight smile. "Humans are good at noticing details others might miss." They continued the tour, visiting sectors designed for each major galactic species. In each area, the humans demonstrated knowledge or abilities that shouldn't have been possible. Colonel Santos correctly identified hidden security measures in the Drachmary section. Chen spoke several words in ancient Hive collective dialects that Admiral Korth claimed had been lost for millennia. Dr. Park solved a mathematical puzzle in the Valerian area that had stumped their best scholars for decades. "How?" Zexkar finally asked. "How do you know these things?" "We observe carefully," Chen answered. "Humans have learned much about galactic civilization through patient study." "What kind of study?" Captain THYSS demanded, her serpentine head weaving with agitation. "Our security protocols should have prevented detailed observation of internal affairs." Chen exchanged glances with her companions. Some form of silent communication seemed to pass between them, too subtle for galactic sensors to detect. "Perhaps we should move to formal negotiations," Chen suggested. "We have much to discuss." The main conference room had been configured to accommodate all species comfortably. Environmental controls maintained optimal conditions for each delegation, while translation systems ensured perfect communication. The humans took seats at one end of the massive oval table, facing representatives from 12 different civilizations. "Let us begin with your intentions," Zexkar said formally. "The Galactic Council is concerned about human expansion patterns and would like to understand your long-term goals." Chun leaned back in her chair, completely relaxed despite facing the most powerful beings in known space. "Our goals are simple. We want to explore the galaxy, establish homes for our people, and learn from other civilizations. We hope to build peaceful, productive relationships with all galactic species." "Your expansion rate suggests urgency beyond normal exploration," Ambassador Yilla observed. 3,000 systems in 2 centuries indicates either desperate need for resources or preparation for conflict. "Neither," Dr. Park replied. "Human expansion reflects our nature. We explore because we're curious. We establish colonies because we like variety. We spread throughout the galaxy because space is vast and interesting." Admiral Korth's mandibles clicked skeptically. No species expands for curiosity alone. Survival pressures, resource needs, or territorial imperatives drive expansion. What pressures motivated human space travel? Colonel Santos spoke for the first time. "We expanded because staying on one world felt limiting. Earth gave us everything we needed for comfortable survival, but humans need challenges to remain healthy. Space provided unlimited challenges. This explanation made no sense to galactic observers. Most species reached space through necessity, driven by overpopulation, environmental disaster, or resource depletion. The idea of choosing space travel for entertainment purposes violated every model of civilization development. You left a comfortable homeworld to face the dangers of space because you were bored? Captain THYSS asked incredulously. Essentially, yes, Chen confirmed. Humans thrive on new experiences and difficult problems. Space offered both in unlimited quantities. Zexkar struggled to process this information. Your species chooses hardship over comfort, deliberately seeks dangerous challenges rather than safe solutions. Often, Chen agreed. We find that overcoming difficulties makes us stronger and more capable. Easy lives make humans weak and unhappy. The concept horrified everyone present. Galactic civilization was built on eliminating hardships and maximizing comfort and safety. The idea that a species might actively seek out suffering and danger seemed pathological. This explains your military capabilities, Admiral Korth realized. You don't fight to survive. You fight because you enjoy it. Not exactly, Colonel Santos corrected. We fight when necessary to protect what we value. But we're very good at fighting because we've had extensive practice throughout our history. Practice against whom? Zexkar asked. Each other, mostly, Santos admitted. Human history involves considerable internal conflict. We've been perfecting warfare for thousands of years before reaching space. The admission sent shock waves through the assembled diplomats. Most galactic species achieved space travel only after eliminating internal warfare and achieving planetary unity. Humans had somehow reached the stars while maintaining their capacity for organized violence. Are you currently at war with each other? Ambassador Yilla asked nervously. Some minor conflicts continue, Chen acknowledged. But space exploration has given us new outlets for competitive energy. It's easier to compete for new worlds than fight over old ones. So human expansion is actually a form of controlled warfare? THYSS concluded. Different groups racing to claim territory before rivals can reach it? Partially, Dr. Park agreed. Competition drives innovation and efficiency. Human groups that establish successful colonies gain advantages over groups that don't. This creates motivation for rapid, effective expansion. Zexkar began understanding why human colonies succeeded in environments that defeated other species. Humans weren't trying to create comfortable settlements. They were trying to prove their groups could survive anything rivals might attempt. Each colony was essentially a military outpost disguised as a civilian settlement. What happens when human groups encounter resistance from established galactic civilizations? Admiral Korth asked carefully. Chen's expression became more serious. We prefer cooperation and mutual benefit. But humans are very good at adapting to whatever circumstances they encounter. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Humans wanted peaceful coexistence, but they were prepared for alternatives if cooperation proved impossible. The Skarn raiders learned about human adaptability, Colonel Santos added. They attacked our convoy expecting easy prey. They discovered that humans respond to threats differently than most species. How differently? Zexkar asked, though he dreaded the answer. Most galactic species try to minimize casualties and collateral damage during conflicts, Santos explained. Humans try to end conflicts as quickly and decisively as possible. We've learned that prolonged warfare causes more suffering than brief, overwhelming responses. The tactical philosophy explained the battle reports that had confused military analysts. Human forces didn't fight to achieve limited objectives or negotiate favorable surrenders. They fought to eliminate enemies completely and permanently. The Skarn survivors mentioned impossible coordination between human ships, Captain THYSS said. How do you achieve such precise teamwork? Dr. Park smiled for the first time during the negotiations. Humans are social creatures. We've developed extensive cooperation techniques through millions of years of evolution and thousands of years of civilization. But no telepathic capabilities were detected, Ambassador Yilla protested. We don't need telepathy, Chen explained. Humans can communicate enormous amounts of information through subtle verbal, visual, and behavioral cues. We read each other's intentions through micro-expressions, body language, vocal tones, and context interpretation. The explanation sounded like telepathy with extra steps. Zexkar wondered if humans were being deliberately vague about their communication abilities. "Could you demonstrate this communication technique?" he requested. Chen looked at her companions for several seconds without speaking. Dr. Park nodded slightly, while Colonel Santos made an almost invisible gesture with her left hand. Chen turned back to Zexkar with a knowing smile. Dr. Park just suggested that we should share more technical information to build trust. Colonel Santos agreed, but recommended maintaining some operational security. I decided to compromise by explaining our communication methods without revealing specific techniques. The silent exchange had lasted perhaps 5 seconds and involved no detectable technology. Yet the humans had conducted a complex three-way negotiation faster than most species could formulate simple questions. "Remarkable," Admiral Korth chittered. "Your communication efficiency exceeds our most advanced technological systems." "Technology isn't always the optimal solution," Chen replied. "Humans have learned that biological systems often outperform artificial alternatives in complex, unpredictable environments." This philosophy explained many of the paradoxes surrounding human expansion. While other species relied on advanced technology to overcome environmental challenges, humans used biological adaptability and social cooperation. They succeeded in hostile environments because they changed themselves rather than changing the environments. "What are your actual technological capabilities?" Dr. Park asked suddenly. "We've observed galactic civilization for decades, but many of your achievements seem to contradict the technologies we've detected." The question caught everyone off guard. Humans were supposed to be the primitive species being evaluated by advanced galactic civilization. The idea that humans had been evaluating galactic capabilities was disturbing. "What do you mean?" Zexkar asked carefully. "Your ships achieve faster than light travel, but the energy requirements should be enormous," Park explained. "Your cities support billions of inhabitants, but we detect no massive industrial infrastructure. Your weapons can destroy planets, but the underlying physics aren't clear from external observation." "You've been studying our technology?" Ambassador Yilla demanded. "Of course," Chen replied. "We wanted to understand our galactic neighbors before making contact. Humans always research thoroughly before entering new relationships." The casual admission that humans had been conducting their own intelligence operations sent alarm through the assembled diplomats. If humans had been watching galactic civilization as intensively as galactic civilization had been watching humans, the balance of information was equal rather than advantageous. "What conclusions did you reach?" Admiral Korth asked nervously. "Galactic civilization is very impressive," Dr. Park acknowledged, "but also surprisingly fragile. You've achieved peace and prosperity through careful balance of power and mutual deterrence. Any major disruption could destabilize everything you've built. Are you planning to cause disruption?" Captain THYSS hissed. "Not intentionally," Colonel Santos replied. "But human presence changes equations whether we want it to or not. Our expansion creates new variables that existing systems weren't designed to handle." Zexkar realized the humans were offering a warning disguised as diplomatic courtesy. Human expansion would continue regardless of galactic approval. The only choice was whether that expansion happened through cooperation or conflict. "What do you propose?" he asked. "Partnership," Chen said simply. "Humans have capabilities that complement galactic technology. You have knowledge and resources that we need. Together, we could achieve things neither side could accomplish alone." "What kind of partnership?" Ambassador Yilla asked suspiciously. "Joint exploration missions to dangerous regions of space," Dr. Park suggested. "Human adaptability combined with galactic technology could open areas that neither side could explore safely alone." "Shared defense agreements against common threats," Colonel Santos added. "The galaxy contains dangers beyond any single species' ability to handle." "Cultural and scientific exchanges," Chen concluded. "Humans have different approaches to problem-solving that might benefit galactic research. Galactic knowledge could help humans develop more sophisticated solutions to challenges we face." The proposals sounded reasonable, but Zexkar detected underlying implications. Humans were offering to share their advantages in exchange for galactic cooperation. The alternative was that humans would continue expanding alone, potentially forcing confrontations with established civilizations. "We need time to consider these proposals," Admiral Korth said diplomatically. Of course, Chen agreed. "We understand that major policy decisions require careful consideration." As the formal session ended and delegates prepared to leave, Zexkar approached the human ambassador privately. "May I ask a personal question?" he said. "Certainly. Do humans actually want peace with galactic civilization? Or are you simply offering cooperation because it's more convenient than conquest?" Chen studied him carefully before responding. "Humans prefer cooperation because we learn more from friends than enemies. But you should understand something about our species. We don't make threats or demands because we don't need to. Human expansion will continue with or without galactic approval because expansion is what humans do. The question isn't whether we'll take our place in the galaxy. The question is whether that happens through partnership or conflict. And if galactic civilization chose conflict?" Chen's smile was gentle, but somehow terrifying. "Then, you would discover why the ancient records warned against challenging species like humans. We don't start fights, Commander, but we always finish them." As Zexkar watched the human delegation depart, he understood that the galaxy had already changed irrevocably. Humans weren't asking permission to expand or requesting approval for their presence. They were offering one final opportunity for peaceful coexistence before demonstrating why the ancient warnings had been written. The truth was already too late to change. Humans had been preparing for galactic contact far longer than anyone realized. They had studied galactic civilization, understood its strengths and weaknesses, and positioned themselves to succeed regardless of how other species responded. The warnings from ancient records suddenly seemed prophetic rather than mythological. Don't challenge humans, because the outcome was never in doubt. The only choice was whether galactic civilization would be remembered as humanity's first friends or their first conquest. 3 months after the diplomatic summit, Commander Zexkar stood in the same war room where this crisis had begun. The galactic map now showed a drastically changed situation. Human settlements had tripled in number, appearing in systems that had been empty just weeks before. More disturbing, several major galactic civilizations had begun requesting human assistance with previously unsolvable problems. "The Crystalline Collective has formally allied with humans," Captain THYSS reported, her serpentine form coiled with tension. "They're providing raw materials in exchange for human engineering solutions to their structural instability problems." Admiral Korth's mandibles clicked frantically. "The Drakmari Empire has signed trade agreements for human military advisors. They claim human tactical innovation will help them deal with rebellion in their outer territories." Zexkar studied the new alliance patterns with growing alarm. The Galactic Council had spent 3 months debating humanity's proposals while individual civilizations had made their own decisions. The careful balance of power that had maintained galactic peace for millennia was rapidly dissolving. "What about the Valerian Federation's position?" he asked. "Unchanged," Admiral Korth replied. "We maintain that human expansion poses a threat to galactic stability and should be contained through coordinated action." "Coordinated action by whom?" THYSS hissed. "Half the Council has already chosen cooperation over confrontation. The other half lacks the military strength to oppose human expansion without full Council support." The situation had deteriorated exactly as Zexkar had feared. By offering individual civilizations partnerships tailored to their specific needs, humans had split the Galactic Council's unity. Some species saw opportunities for advancement through human cooperation. Others feared being left behind if they refused to engage with humanity's expanding influence. "Dr. Yalara requests an emergency audience," his aide announced. The young Valerian trembled as she spoke, clearly terrified of the implications. Dr. Yalara had led the Federation's research team studying human capabilities. If she was requesting emergency meetings, her findings were either very encouraging or absolutely terrifying. "Send her in immediately." Dr. Yalara entered the war room carrying data tablets and looking like she hadn't slept in days. Her blue skin had taken on an unhealthy pale tint, and her 4 eyes darted nervously around the room. "Commander, we need to discuss the intelligence reports immediately," she said without preamble. What we've discovered about human capabilities changes everything. Zexkar gestured for her to continue, though his 4 hearts were already beating faster with anticipation. We managed to place advanced sensors on several human colonies without detection, Yalara began. The data we collected explains how humans achieve impossible results with apparently primitive technology. She activated a holographic display showing detailed scans of human settlements. The images looked normal at first glance, but closer examination revealed disturbing anomalies. Human cities aren't just settlements, Yalara explained. They're integrated biological and technological systems that operate according to principles we don't understand. Look at this power distribution analysis. The display highlighted energy flows throughout a human colony. Instead of centralized power generation feeding distribution networks, energy seemed to flow in complex patterns that defied conventional engineering. The humans aren't using traditional technology at all, Yalara continued. They've somehow merged biological and mechanical systems into hybrid structures that function like living organisms. Their buildings grow rather than being constructed. Their transportation systems adapt to changing conditions automatically. Their industrial facilities modify themselves to optimize production. Admiral Quarth's chittering rose to alarmed frequencies. That's impossible. Biological and mechanical systems are fundamentally incompatible. The energy requirements alone would be prohibitive. That's what we thought too, Yalara agreed. But humans have solved problems that our greatest scientists claimed were unsolvable. They've created technology that thinks, adapts, and evolves without external control. Zexkar studied the sensor data carefully. The implications were staggering. If humans could create self-modifying technology that improved itself automatically, they would soon surpass any advantages galactic civilization currently possessed. How long have they possessed this capability, he asked. Based on our analysis, humans have been developing biotechnological integration for centuries, Yalara replied. They began with simple medical implants and agricultural modifications. Over time, they learned to integrate biological and mechanical systems more completely. Why didn't our previous surveillance detect these capabilities? Because human biotechnology disguises itself as primitive mechanical systems when observed casually, Yalara explained. Their buildings look like simple metal and ceramic construction until examined with specialized sensors. Their ships appear to use conventional engines until you analyze the energy patterns in detail. The revelation explained many mysteries about human expansion. Humans hadn't achieved rapid colonization through superior technology in the traditional sense. They had achieved it through technology that functioned like enhanced biology, adapting to local conditions and optimizing itself automatically. There's more, Yalara continued grimly. We detected something else during our surveillance operations. The humans knew we were watching them. What do you mean? Captain THYSS demanded. I mean, they deliberately allowed us to place our sensors and fed us carefully selected information, Yalara replied. The data we collected was real, but incomplete. Humans wanted us to understand their basic capabilities without revealing their full potential. Zexkar felt his blood freeze. If humans had been controlling galactic intelligence operations from the beginning, they knew far more about galactic civilization than anyone had suspected. How do you know they were feeding us selected information? Because our sensors detected the selection process, Yalara admitted. Human biotechnology includes sophisticated counter-surveillance capabilities. Their systems identified our monitoring equipment immediately and began providing specific data designed to create specific impressions. What impressions were they trying to create? Admiral Quarth asked. That humans are powerful but not invincible, Yalara replied. That cooperation would be beneficial but not essential. That conflict would be possible but costly. The psychological manipulation was masterful. Humans had given galactic civilization just enough information to understand the benefits of cooperation and the risks of confrontation without revealing the true scope of their advantages. Sir, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Outer Rim territories, Zexkar's aide announced. Multiple distress signals from the Skarn Raider strongholds. Zexkar opened the communication channel immediately. The Skarn had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, maintaining massive fortress bases in asteroid fields throughout the Outer Rim. No galactic force had ever successfully assaulted their strongholds. This is Warlord Krex of the Skarn fleet. The transmission began. We request immediate assistance from any galactic authority. Our strongholds are under attack by human forces. We cannot hold our positions. The request for help from the Skarn was unprecedented. The warrior culture had never asked for assistance from anyone, preferring death to accepting aid from their enemies. Warlord Krex, this is Commander Zexkar of the Galactic Council, he replied. What is your tactical situation? Humans appeared in our territories 6 hours ago with a fleet of unknown design, Krex responded. Their ships move unlike anything we've encountered. They seem to anticipate our tactics before we implement them. We've lost 12 strongholds already. How many human ships are you facing? That's the problem. We can't determine their fleet size. Human vessels appear and disappear without detectable movement. They attack from directions that should be impossible, then vanish before we can respond. Admiral Korth's mandibles clicked with confusion. Describe their attack patterns. There are no patterns, Krex replied. Each assault is completely different from the previous one. It's as if they're testing different approaches to determine optimal strategies. Zexkar exchanged worried glances with his staff. The description suggested humans were using the Skarn strongholds as training exercises, learning optimal assault techniques through practical experience. Warlord Krex, what prompted this human attack? Did you initiate hostilities? Negative. We received a communication offering employment opportunities. We thought humans wanted to hire Skarn warriors as mercenaries. When we refused, they said they would demonstrate why cooperation was preferable to independence. They gave you an ultimatum? No, they gave us a choice. Join human expansion efforts as partners or be replaced by groups willing to cooperate. We chose to maintain our independence. And now we understand that independence was never actually an option. Humans were simply being polite by asking before taking action. The transmission ended abruptly. Zexkar immediately contacted other monitoring stations throughout the Outer Rim. Reports began arriving within minutes, painting a picture of coordinated military action that defied everything galactic civilization understood about warfare. Human forces had simultaneously attacked Skarn positions across thousands of light years. The coordination required for such an operation should have been impossible without massive communication networks that would have been detectable for months before the assault began. How did they achieve galaxy-wide coordination without detectable preparations? Captain THYSS wondered. The same way they've achieved everything else, Zexkar realized. Through capabilities we don't understand operating according to principles we haven't discovered. Dr. Yalara activated her displays again. I think I know what's happening. Our sensor data suggests human biotechnology includes quantum communication capabilities. Their systems can share information instantaneously across unlimited distances. Quantum communication requires enormous energy expenditures and creates detectable signatures, Admiral Korth protested. Human biotechnology doesn't follow our rules, Yalara replied. They've somehow created biological quantum communication that operates through natural processes rather than technological ones. The implications were staggering. If humans could communicate instantly across the galaxy through biological processes, they could coordinate actions between distant colonies without any technological infrastructure. Their expansion wasn't chaotic and unplanned as it appeared. It was carefully orchestrated through communication methods galactic civilization couldn't detect or intercept. Sir, we're receiving another transmission, the aide announced. From Ambassador Chun. Zexkar accepted the communication with trembling hands. Chen's image appeared on the main display, looking calm and professional as always. Commander Zexkar, I hope you're well, she began pleasantly. I wanted to update you on recent developments in the Outer Rim. Ambassador Chun, are human forces attacking Skarn strongholds? We're providing the Skarn with opportunities to reconsider their position regarding galactic cooperation, Chen replied diplomatically. The Outer Rim has been plagued by piracy for centuries. We thought it was time to address that problem by destroying their strongholds. By demonstrating that piracy is no longer a viable economic strategy, Chen corrected. The Skarn can choose to become productive members of galactic society or find themselves replaced by groups with better attitudes toward cooperation. This is an act of war against an independent civilization. Chen's expression became slightly puzzled. War implies conflict between equal forces. What's happening in the Outer Rim is more like renovation. We're updating outdated systems to function more efficiently. The casual dismissal of Skarn military capabilities as outdated systems was more terrifying than any direct threat. Humans didn't consider the galaxy's most feared warriors to be worthy opponents. They were treating military conquest as infrastructure improvement. What are your intentions regarding the rest of galactic civilization? Zexkar asked directly. The same intentions we've always had, Chen replied. We want to establish productive relationships with all galactic species. Some groups, like the Crystalline Collective and the Drakmari Empire, have chosen cooperation and are benefiting enormously. Others, like the Skarn, chose confrontation and are discovering the disadvantages of that decision. And if the Galactic Council chooses confrontation? Chen's smile became sad rather than threatening. Commander, the Galactic Council has been watching human expansion for decades while debating how to respond. During that time, we've established settlements throughout the galaxy, formed alliances with major civilizations, and demonstrated our capabilities through practical examples. The time for choosing confrontation was 50 years ago, before we became established. Now cooperation is the only realistic option. Are you threatening the Galactic Council? I'm explaining reality, Chen replied gently. Humans are now part of galactic civilization whether the Council approves or not. The only choice is whether our integration happens smoothly or disruptively. What if we refuse to accept human integration? Then, you'll discover why the ancient records warned against challenging species like humans, Chen said. We don't make threats because we don't need to. Resistance to human expansion isn't dangerous because we're hostile. It's dangerous because it's futile, and futile resistance causes unnecessary suffering. The communication ended, leaving the war room in stunned silence. Everyone present understood that the crisis had moved beyond diplomatic solutions. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy through military force. They had conquered it through careful planning, strategic patience, and capabilities that made resistance impossible rather than merely inadvisable. What do we do now? Admiral Korth asked quietly. Zexkar studied the galactic map one final time. Human settlements now formed a network that connected every major system. Human alliances controlled the most important trade routes and resource centers. Human technology provided solutions to problems that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia. Most importantly, humans had achieved all of this while maintaining the appearance of friendly cooperation. They had never declared war, never made threats, never demanded submission. They had simply expanded until resistance became pointless. We accept reality, Zexkar decided. We contact Ambassador Chun and begin negotiations for Valerian Federation integration into human-led galactic civilization. Sir, his aide asked uncertainly. The ancient warnings were accurate, Zexkar explained. Don't challenge humans, because the truth was already too late. They didn't conquer us through force. They conquered us by making conquest unnecessary. Captain THYSS coiled herself into a defensive posture. We're surrendering without fighting? We're acknowledging that the fight ended before we realized it had begun, Zexkar corrected. Humans have been preparing for galactic integration since first contact. Every expansion, every alliance, every demonstration of capability was part of a plan to make their dominance inevitable without requiring violence. Dr. Yalara nodded slowly. The sensor data supports that conclusion. Human expansion patterns weren't random. They were strategically designed to surround and isolate any groups that might choose resistance. Admiral Korth's chittering took on a defeated tone. So we join them or face the same fate as the Skarn? We join them because it's the optimal outcome for everyone involved, Zexkar replied. Humans don't want to rule the galaxy through fear. They want to improve it through cooperation. The choice they've given us is between partnership and irrelevance, not between submission and freedom. As Zexkar prepared to contact Ambassador Chun and begin surrender negotiations, he reflected on the ancient warnings that had predicted this outcome. The records hadn't been describing military conquest or technological superiority. They had been warning about species that achieved dominance through inevitability rather than force. Humans had made themselves indispensable to galactic civilization while making resistance to their expansion impossible. They had won without fighting by ensuring that fighting would accomplish nothing except unnecessary destruction. The truth was too late because the truth was that humanity had already won the moment they decided to expand into the galaxy. Everything since then had been an extended demonstration of why cooperation was better than resistance. The warnings had been clear. Don't challenge humans, because the challenge itself proved you had already lost. The only choice was whether you lost gracefully or catastrophically. Zexkar chose grace. He opened a communication channel to Ambassador Chun and began the process of transforming the Galactic Council into humanity's first truly willing partner in reshaping the galaxy according to human vision. The age of human dominance hadn't begun with conquest. It had begun with the first human who looked at the stars and decided that the galaxy needed improvement. Everything since then had been inevitable.